Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you're having a great day and wrapping up your 2024. I've spent some time today reflecting on the past races during 2024, and I thought it might be beneficial for some of you to share four things that I learned throughout the year competing in races of various lengths. One thing I did different this year was I made a conscious effort to race more. And in the past, I usually signed up for one big race, maybe picked up a shorter race sometime throughout the year, but this year I wanted to race in more competitions. And there's a couple reasons why I had that change in mindset. First of all, I wanted to support the sport. The more people that participate in these races, especially locally, it just benefits the sport as a whole. And so I wanted to, support the community, support the people that put on races. Two, competitions are a great way to test new gear. They're a great way to test new nutrition, and they're a great way to make sure you're where you need to be if you're using it as a stepping stone towards a longer or bigger race. Three, they're fun, right? If you're in a big training block, they get monotonous, and sometimes it's fun just to go hit a race and get that race energy and gives you something to look forward to. And then finally, races is when you learn new things, not only about running, but also, about yourself and just life in general. So I'm planning on keeping the same mindset in this upcoming year. My goal is to run in 6 races of various lengths, but support the same reasons that I just mentioned. So lesson number one that I learned: sometimes you have to check your pride in order to accomplish your bigger goal. And this lesson was learned in Moab, which was a race in February. And I was signed up for the 50-mile race, and I was ready for it from a training perspective. But the week of the race, I got sick. And I mean, I was really sick. And I wasn't worried about it until Thursday when we were supposed to leave. I still had a fever. And I remember walking out the door thinking, there's no way I can run 50 miles. And I told myself, I don't have to run 50 miles a day. I just have to get to Greeley. So I made it to Greeley, stayed the night. Next morning I woke up, felt a little bit better, but we still had to drive to Moab. We did some touristy things, and I made the decision at check-in. I lowered it down to actually a 20-mile race. I think 33K was the distance, and it was tough for me to swallow my pride. I only two things I got going for me. Number one is I do what I say I'm going to do, and number two, I can grind through things. And I know that there's always an excuse not to do something. And in the back of my mind, I felt like I was using kind of the sickness as an excuse not to run the race. But what I realized was I looked at what my bigger goals were for the year and even long term and where this fit into it. And I knew I was better off not completely draining myself trying to gut through 50 miles when I was coming off of sickness and doing the lower distance, feeling a lot better, and then starting back on with my training. And so that's what led to the decision. It was tough, but I think it was something that it was the right decision. And obviously it bothers me because I'm still talking about it today. But, sometimes you got to look at the bigger picture, swallow your pride, live to fight another day. So the second lesson I learned actually at the same race was fix little problems before they become big issues. And that, specifically, and that applies to life, but specifically that was to blisters. And I had been having some problems with blisters in races, but, it was always just kind of like part of it. But that particular race, which was 20 miles, I felt huge blisters on my feet about mile 10. And, it's not really an issue in a distance of that, or a race of that distance. But, I'm thinking, man, if I had to run another 30 miles after that, or if I had to run 100 miles, like those blisters would have been a big issue. And so I did some research on blisters, upgraded my socks, got some merino wool socks, some foot lube, and I dialed that in, and I haven't had any issues, knock on wood, since then. Actually, had been real good foot care since then. So that's just something real small, blisters, and just making sure you fix the problem before it becomes a big issue. Uh, number Next race I ran was actually Crown of the Crest. Actually podium, took second there, but was a good reinforced that my socks were working. But just a good race leading up to my big race of the year, which was the Black Hills 100. And the lesson that I learned at the Black Hills 100 was the power of the spoken word. And the Black Hills 100 is a race through the Black Hills. It's actually more like 105 miles, and they tell you that, and it's an out and back. And I'm heading out, and I'm about to the turnaround point, and my watch, rings 50 miles. I'm like, okay, I gotta be close, but I know there's still a few more miles. But it starts getting to me. And there's also a big descent, and I'm just kind of, it's dark now. The sun's down. I'm just kind of getting a bad mood, and the thought of another 52, 53 miles at the turnaround point, is kind of starting to get to me, and I'm not low, but I can feel my my attitude shifting. So I hit the aid station, see my crew getting ready to leave. I got, Jay Kolscher, Brett Hunter, Cody Arnold, my dad, four tough sons of guns, four people I respect. And I'm sitting there and just kind of, I'm on my feet and I'm ready to go. And I remember I just said, I'm a tough son of a bitch. And I needed to say that. I needed to have that out in the universe. And I kind of used that as my mantra for the rest of the race. And I think someday those words are going to come back to haunt me. But they all kind of looked at me like, what? Like, where'd that come from? They're like, yeah, you're tough. You're tough. But I needed to say that. And, whenever I hit a low spot for that rest of the race, I would just say, I'm a tough son of a bitch. And when my knees hurt, I would just repeat it. And, once I said it, I had to back it up. There wasn't any going back. And so, I think there's some benefit to that. And, if you say it enough times, you believe it, and it kind of helps you get through those low points. I'm actually wearing my finisher shirt from that 100 miles, Johnny Cash flipping it off. Pretty sweet, but great race. Then after that, I ran another 13-mile trail run, the Hilly Goat, which was a great race. And then the final race of the year was the Hitchcock 50. And I knew going into the Hitchcock 50, I knew my training wasn't going to be great leading up to it, just time of the year. I knew I'd be struggling to get the miles. But I went ahead and did it. I just felt like a nonchalant race showing up. And the lesson that I learned from that is, what you've done in the past doesn't matter. You need to be ready to go. I made some mistakes in that race. One was my nutrition. I used spring gels or energy drinks, and not energy drinks, but spring gels. And I've had real good luck with them in the past. I ordered some new ones, but I knew that they had changed the recipe all the way back like middle of the summer, but I had had enough, so I hadn't had to order anymore. And the consistency changed of it. And I hit like, so, I'm 3, 4 miles into this, and I hit that first gel. I'm like, oh, it just did not feel good with my stomach. And so with it changing, I should have tested it ahead of time. To make sure it's still good. It didn't impact me. I mean, I got everything settled down. It all worked out. But, like, again, that could have caused a big problem. And then the second mistake I made was with my headlamps. I had two. I bought 8 batteries. The headlamps take 3 apiece. I put 3 in one, and then I carried 3 new ones in my pouch in case that goes dead. And then I had a second headlamp where I put 2 new ones in, but then I just grabbed a battery out of the closet. I just assumed it was good. And I ran with that headlamp, the first one for the first 2 laps. It worked great. And then I just said, hey, give me that other headlamp, and I'll just wear that for the second lap. And it was going dead. Like I ran about 20 minutes without a headlamp, where I wish I would have had a headlamp. Not wish, but it was like borderline. So that could have caused a lot of problems. Now, granted, I had spare batteries, which I could have switched out, but it was like one of them little mistakes that just could have been prevented. And you start taking things like that for granted, where you're like, oh, I'm just going to go do this race. I don't need to, double check my gear, things of that nature. So just remember, what you've done in the past doesn't matter. You always got to be ready to go. So anyways, looking forward to 2025. Got some great races planned, and looking forward to grow, not only as a runner, but as a human being. So hope to see y'all out there on the trail someday.